Okay, we're live.
Hey,
How's everyone doing?
is that me or the chat?
Everyone, it's all of y'all.
I'm wonderful. I am actually, I should tell you this before we get started, jet lagged to infinity
Oh
because I'm
yeah.
in Scotland for the week from Japan. But a 9 hours time difference. And you know what? I'm gonna get the time difference sorted and then I have to fly back and suffer all over again. But
Well,
I'm
that'll be
happy to
great.
be here with you, my friend.
Yeah, I'm happy you're here. I'm a bit disheveled right now. I was trying to get my review done
Mhm.
and I couldn't in time. So uh yeah, but here I am.
You look wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. We've got Midnight Chronicler. I need to reach out with him. Are you married right now, Midnight? Because I remember you were to get married in November. So if that's the case, congratulations. It's been way too long.
It'd be a quick divorce, wouldn't it?
Oh my gosh. Stop it. Here for the start of one. Hello from the once again snowy Canadian prairies on lunch. So, dude, so glad you're here. Good afternoon, all. Hey, Thomas. Hey, David. Hey, I'm actually here in time for once. Wow. So cool. I'm
Good to
glad.
see you.
Good to see everyone. So yeah, it's been a while since we've chatted. So what's new and what have you been reading and what have you been loving and not loving in books?
Well, I think the key thing you need to know is that my glasses are more out of shape than when we last spoke, which might not be something for you, but is certainly very irritating for me.
Mm.
I don't know. I've been doing well. You know, I think you're slightly older at Booktube than I am. I started about 15 months ago, something like that, and I'm beginning to notice, if you don't mind me starting off a little bit maudlin, that some people who started their channels around the same time as us have begun to maybe fritter away a little bit. But I guess the best thing I can say is that I'm still having a great time.
Yeah,
I love reading. I love talking about it.
yeah.
It feeds my narcissism quite well. I'm currently reading "The Spear Cuts Through Water" by Simon Jimenez. Have you heard of it?
Nope.
Brilliant. I mean, I've only read 100 pages, but the 100 pages I have read are wonderful. And so I'm just delighted. But one thing that happened when I moved back to Japan, for those viewers who don't know me, I moved to Japan in September. Um, it became very difficult to talk to people, especially yourself, Thomas, because I feel like I can do the Britain to Japan time difference quite well, and I can do the East Coast to Japan time difference quite well, but the West Coast to Japan is just brutal, man.
Yeah.
And so I'm so happy, on genuinely, to be talking with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. It's awesome.
Mhm.
Joanna, how you doing? Uh, yeah, it's nice. Yeah, life has been crazy, but
Mhm.
it's nice to be able to still talk about books,
Mhm.
not feel it being a chore, not feeling like I need to get a review out. I mean, I do feel pressure now because I want to get this review done, but now I had to stop filming halfway through, so I don't know how that's going to feel and look. But other than that, I can take 5 months reading a book, and I don't care. I
Especially
don't.
if it's a good book.
I don't need to be reading a book and reviewing it every week. So that feels great, and not feeling that pressure, and still having people be patient and enjoy my journey, which is nice
Yeah.
because I feel like there might be this, I don't know, like, gosh dang it, where's our review? Or hey, when are you going to finish the book? It's like, well, get to it when I get to it.
But I think that's just a testament to how people, if I can just gush about you for a second, for my
Mm.
244p screen,
Oh, so,
people love you, and you
yeah.
you seem to have tuned into something. And I've been trying to think. I've been thinking about this today, and not in preparation, but I've just been thinking about you today. And I think one thing you do very well is you mirror and articulate other people's reading journeys really excellently. Like that idea that you can take your time with a book, and that is the most important thing. And books are ultimately both isolated experiences where you're sitting in a room by yourself, and yet also um, very much communal, shared experiences. Because I've read Lonesome Dove, and it's so gratifying for me to hear you talk about Lonesome Dove. So I think you're very appreciated in the space.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice because I think, it's easy to, I mean, you look at anything, You look at
Yeah.
professional sports, you look at this or that, you look at these unrealistic expectations being set on social media, like, "Gosh, how's that guy play so well and I can't play
Yeah.
that well?" Or, "This person's reading 100 books a week. How come I can't do it?" It's like, well, there's a lot of people, majority of the people are reading at regular or slower paces.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't gonna be able to dunk the basketball and make 10 out of 10 three-point shots. Like,
Yeah.
you can be a normal guy and
And
still enjoy books.
there's potentially a danger, right? If we're all saying, yes, I read 3 books this week, that almost feels implicitly gatekeepy, right? Which is kind of what you're saying. If I can't do that, what's the point? And the point is that you're engaging in a glorious hobby that you can talk about with other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so when was the last time we chatted?
Online, like this, I
It was
think it was
midnight.
September. I
Midnight.
just I just moved back to or just moved into my new apartment, which I'm still
Yeah.
in. Yeah. And I was doing it on my floor at like 5 a.m. having not bought any furniture yet. How have things been for you since that time?
Gosh, I'm right now, I'm just in the whirlwind. I'm trying to shift gears. Um, it's been good. I mean, it's just busy. We're saying yes to a lot of people. Trying to just spend time with people, not be shut in.
Mm,
Because last year it was so easy to get into this routine where you're just kind of doing this, doing that, doing work. I don't want to do anything.
yeah,
But now we're just saying yes, and we're spending time with a lot of friends, um, going out more. So it feels like days are just blowing by, but for
yeah,
good. And also lately, it's been extremely hot here. I don't know why. And sleep has felt like I'm just in Arizona because it's boiling hot, and I wake up and my mouth is dry, and we just haven't been sleeping good because it's so hot. But other than that, we got coffee, we got books, we got it's good stuff.
Give me, if I can
Yeah.
put you on the spot, the Thomas R. Howell quintessential moment of the last 6 months, like your most joyous, incredible point in that time frame, or something. It doesn't have to be the best.
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, so much is the best. Like, that's the thing. Yeah, I don't know. I can't really pick one. Yeah, I'm sorry. I
I'm
there's
leaving.
there's so much to do. There's
Yeah.
so many things to explore and enjoy, and feel like it's just been great. Yeah. What about you?
I asked you this question. I've got no idea. Oh, I can give you one, actually.
Yeah,
I had a really lovely moment with my, this is not about books whatsoever.
that's
I had
great.
a really lovely moment with my daughter, who's 3, and Bedlam, and my son's 5. So it's just utter carnage in the house. But we were on vacation this winter in Thailand. It's not so far from Japan. We found some cheap flights. But because we found these cheap flights, they left Bangkok back to Tokyo at like 4 in the morning. So about early January this year, I'm sitting with my daughter, trying to get her to sleep for like 3 hours so we can get on a plane. And she's kicking around and she's tossing and turning. My daughter is feral, and I love her very much. But she just wasn't going to sleep. So what I did was I just gave up about 9 p.m. because all of
Yeah.
us were miserable in this hotel room. And eventually I just looked at my daughter and I just said, listen, do you want to go out? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And so we go up to the rooftop of this hotel and we just sit and we look at the stars for like 2 or 3 hours. And what was initially a really awful, grumpy time of get some
Yeah.
sleep because we have a 5 hour flight, became this really wonderful moment of just lying down with my child. And we talk about books and the joy that books bring us, and that's all true. But I think books are just a reflection of those wonderful moments that we're constantly searching for outside of books as well. And it was just a wonderful time.
I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
even those I mean, the cool thing about flights is you can sleep on the plane. You can at least attempt to, and you never really sleep good before a
No,
flight. You never do.
no.
Like, I'll do a job in another state, and then the next day I'm getting ready for my flight, or I'm getting ready after that job that night, and I'm just like, I'm going to get 2 hours of sleep, and that's just how it is. And you just power through it. But I imagine the same thing is with kids, and I'm glad you can have that moment of peace.
The best flight I ever went on. I had to take a flight during COVID. It was like really, really extraneous circumstances. I got like stuff sealed by various governments to fly from Japan to the States. So this is like a 13-hour flight. And there were 6 other people on that plane. I kid you not. So we were all masked up, and we did what we had to do. But it was weird. It was weird because you know how you sometimes hope for just the seat next to you to be empty. All 7 seats on this plane next to me were completely empty. So I had bag here, book here, could lay down, make a bed of like the strip of 4 seats. It was transcendent. I read a whole book. I didn't see another person on that flight, and it was just the best time of my life.
Yeah.
And I'll never have that experience again, which is good because COVID. But the
flights are tough because it's you're stuck. You can't really choose who you sit next to.
No.
There's a lot of people who don't have situational or social awareness with, there's this guy sitting next to me. It's a 4 a.m. flight, but you don't know what's going on in his life. And he's just ripping into a hard-boiled egg and just chipping away at Greek yogurt that's frozen. And I'm just sitting here. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Well, here's my question for you.
No, here's the thing. The thing. Dude, I ignore him because I don't like to really talk to people on flights because I just don't want to open that up because I have to sit with people on that flight, and I just maybe toward the end of the flight, but then toward the end of the flight, we land. We're shuttling into the gate, and he's looking at gameplay footage of Elden Ring, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have talked to this guy all day. And we did. We talked a little bit about Elden Ring. He was a nice guy, but then I learned the reason why he's cracking into a hard-boiled egg and a Greek yogurt at 4 a.m. He doesn't have a home. He works, travels. So it's like he's just got to get food when he can, and so you just don't know.
No, you don't, do you?
You don't. But also, hard-boiled egg and beef jerky, like I can't at 4 a.m. That's the only thing about
on this flight over, my son's with me, and this flight from Tokyo to Scotland took about 13 hours. The main leg of it took 13 hours, and he comes up to me. He's like, "Dada, can I have a glass of milk?" And I'm like, "Of course you can, my boy. I'll give you a glass of milk." So we get one, and he puts it on his tray, and I kid you not, within about 20 seconds, it just goes flying, and it spills over the tray, leaks between the tray, goes into the blanket, goes into our bags, and I'm like, oh. So we clean it up, all that stuff, and I turn to the guy next to me, and I'm thinking like, this guy must just be raging. And I turn next to him, and I start to go, and the guy just goes, "Hold it." He says, "I have a 5-year-old. I understand. I refuse to take anything from you. Like, don't say anything to me because you do not need to apologize." And it was the most wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And because you do feel so self-conscious as a parent when you're traveling. But I have a question for you though.
Okay, real quick. Go ahead, ask the question.
Like,
I was going to say something about a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I go?
Go, on you go.
Well, I was thinking, I know we're not even talking about books. We're just talking about flights now. But anyways, like, we have this like weird thing, especially with people who don't have kids. They look at parents who bring their newborn on a flight, and the baby's crying and crying. But why are we so upset with that child crying and those parents? It's like, what do you want them to do? Not go on their trip? They just had a baby.
Yeah.
And a baby's going to cry regardless. A baby's going to cry. Like, so what are you going to, why be upset about that? So it's just an interesting perspective. We need to think before we react.
I guess if I was to be somewhat sympathetic to that person, when you buy a ticket's not cheap, right? Like these tickets to Scotland were not cheap whatsoever. And so you almost feel like you're owed a certain sense of luxury because you've had to spend all this money. But the reality is that family has also had to spend potentially more money to get a special seat. The reality
is an airplane is an airplane, and it's pretty much a bus that flies. Like, that's really it. I don't know. I just also think about my mom, when she adopted me, she had to fly all the way to Russia and then fly me all the way back.
Yeah.
course, I'm a 4-month-old crying and throwing up and diarrhea. It's bad, but
Yeah.
you just deal with it.
Well,
It's
I've got
tough.
a good segue into reading,
Let's
if you don't
segue
mind,
out. Yeah.
which is the question I wanted to ask you. We're talking about plane etiquette, right?
Yeah.
If you're on a plane and it's getting dark and they've turned off all the lights, they've dimmed the cabin, okay? And everyone's starting to put their blankets on and they're putting their headphones in. Are you allowed to press the reading light button, or is that bad etiquette?
I
You
think
know
it
the
all,
light that shines down from the sky?
if I think more often than not, I'm already bundled up in a blanket as well.
Hmm.
So I'm not really thinking about that, but I think the biggest etiquette is volume, not
Hmm.
really light and movement. If a kid's kicking the back of my seat, that's
Yeah.
not good etiquette. If you are listening to something on your phone without headphones, that's not good etiquette. I think the light thing is something that, if the light is not being shined in your eyes, I think it's okay.
Hmm.
Um, because I don't know. I think it's okay. What's the chat think about that?
Yeah. We've gone very kind of
Yeah,
hoity-toity talking about
when are we going to
applying
talk
the reading.
about, Sun Eater and
Well,
Stephen King?
Thomas R. Howell, I do want to chat to you about Lonesome Dove, but do you know what I'm reading right
Yeah.
now, apart from The Spear Cuts Through Water?
Okay,
I'm reading
sorry.
Howling Dark, my friend.
I thought you've already read it.
No.
Okay, well, good. I was going to ask you about that.
So
you're
I'm
reading
halfway
it?
through.
Halfway through, and is
Yeah.
it worth it?
Again, halfway through, big asterisk, big caveat. It is better than book one.
Okay.
So I'm just seeing the comment. Am I the only one who hates Sun Eater? Thomas and I have
We both
maybe
don't
that's too
really
strong,
like it.
but
So
we had mixed reactions. I
I
think
didn't like
I
book
find
one.
myself as lower G good.
Greetings and salutations.
Do you know what? Book two is better than book one. I will just say that straight off. There is an improvement in quality, and I'd say that improvement in quality is all round. I don't think I think I appreciated some of Empire of Silence, but I never felt like, oh man, I can't wait to get back to this book. Do you know what I mean? Whenever I put it down, I looked at it and went, okay, I suppose I should read some more of Empire of Silence. There have been moments where I'm like, oh yeah, let's get back to Howling Dark. So for me, that is a step up. However, I will also say I'm still not fully on the Sun Eater train. I still don't feel that level of immersion that for me makes like a really great book. Like when you read Lonesome Dove, you are in it and you almost forget that you're reading, right? And I've
I
still
agree.
not quite ever experienced that with Sun Eater.
Same.
Yeah.
I was never immersed in Empire of Silence, and I also think his writing style, especially now that I've had a year away from it, it's I have to. I mean, I got to give the second book a try, but I think the writing style, I just kept bashing heads with it. It didn't flow.
Mm.
There was a lot of proper nouns and words that, I know this differs, reader to reader, but it just felt like it put a speed bump in
Yes.
the flow of a sentence. It's like there could have been a better word or lack thereof to have this flow easier, because I'm reading The Shining.
Yeah.
And it's only been three or 4 days. I know, totally different writer, but he's my popcorn, my potato chip guy. I just can't stop reading it. The sentences flow easy. Granted, I mean, it's a different type of book, but still.
Do you know, I think with Rockio, I think people sometimes talk about his prose, right? And they go, his prose is incredible. His prose is what hooks you. And I think if you were to break down the sentences like line by line, they might not be your style, but they are quality. I think what Rockio does actually really well that people don't really seem to talk about as much is that small, intimate dialogue and character moment or scenes. I think people often frame Sun Eater as this big, sweeping, majestic, he's going to describe this planet and it's going to be gothic and moody. And that does happen, but those are the moments where I actually switch off. It's when you get down to a one-on-one conversation between two characters, that's when my ears prick up with Sun Eater, and that's when I'm most invested. So I almost wonder if the way that people talk about Sun Eater dissuaded my experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, expectations have crippled my enjoyment. With
You had a
many
video about that. Yeah.
Piranesi.
Mm.
Sorry, you're part of it. You were the reason I started reading that book, and I did not like it.
Hitchhiker's Guide?
Hitchhiker's Guide was of my own, so like I made that choice to read it, and I didn't enjoy it, but I do want to give it another shot.
Mm-hmm.
But really, the expectations with Empire of Silence and that whole series, I'm like, what is going on? Like, why am I not? I'm just not clicking it. Like, what? Am I the only one that doesn't like it? So you feel weird, that and Piranesi. It's like, why are people talking about this so much?
I love Piranesi.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a book that I may have to give another try down the line, but I think there's other books that do that better, in my opinion.
But you know what? This is an interesting point because we always see this from different vantage points, right? So if I can bring up other examples, you love Wheel of Time, right? I got to book 11 of. Have we spoken about this? I got into book 11 of Wheel of Time, and I gave it a proper shot. Do you know what I mean? I didn't just read the first.
You gave it more than a shot. You gave it
like
when you get past book 6, I think that's when you're like, well, I think when you go past half, that's when you're just like, I'm gonna see it to the end.
Well, this is the thing, and you know what? I haven't turned off the idea of just finishing this thing, but it would be because I want to just have it ticked. I really tried with Wheel of Time, and it actually is very similar, if not more so, to me than Sun Eater. I'm still not connecting with these characters, and the writing is so repetitive. And people talk about the world building of Robert Jordan, and I just don't feel it. So I think it's interesting. I guess my point is not really Wheel of Time, but my point is the idea that we can be so on board with something and find it really difficult, not emotionally. I don't think it's an emotional thing, but trying to understand people's reaction against the thing we love and vice versa. It's not about getting our hackles up and getting angry, but it's trying to put yourself in the shoes of the person who loves that thing when you don't, or the other way around. So Piranesi sounds like that too, yeah.
It's about having a conversation and not taking it so personally, where we can have, differing opinions on a book. And those are the conversations I love most. Like I'm not ever offended by, oh my gosh, no one likes, oh, you hate Name of the Wind, or oh, you don't like Wheel of Time. That's okay. I don't like a lot of the popular books coming out. I think, the cool thing is about those books, A Wheel of Time and Name of the Wind, I approach those of really my own accord. And I was able to come away with my own thoughts and my own, my journey was my journey. Whereas who knows how much of these hype trains influence people's journeys of reading. Is it their own enjoyment, or is it, oh, this booktuber, this guy says they love it, and I love it too.
Yep.
I don't know. It's important to really. That's why I always say, like, go approach a book because you want to approach it. In my Lonesome Dove review, I open up with a spoiler-free pitch and why you should read it. And I don't recommend books lightly. And when I do, I mean it. And even though I say, hey, go read it, go get it and read it, I also say, but approach it when you're ready. That book can wait on the shelf, and you can approach it when you're ready. Not read it because you're told to read it. Because I think when you approach a book because you want to, those thoughts are going to be your own thoughts. There's not this pressure coming into that book.
But But at the same time, are we ever able to fully untangle ourselves from these questions of hype? You know, I don't think if we leave it for
Absolutely.
3 or 4 months, I think it's still gonna, if anything, you could argue that that hype begins to balloon as you begin to really
Well,
think, "I need to read
I
this thing."
think I think the less time you spend on the internet, yes, the internet is really pushing our thoughts with
Mhm.
all sorts of information. Like,
Yeah.
when I ask a simple question to my mother-in-law, um, like, "Hey, how much should I put this chicken in for?" I ask her because I want to get her expertise on it, not the internet's.
Mhm.
Like, I can Google, like, "Cool, how do I make, cast iron salmon in the oven?" But I could also ask for a family recipe and how she does it.
Yeah.
And I think there's just something more cozy about that. And same thing with books. Um, but I don't know. It's just it's tough with hype. It's really tough because hype can really influence people and how they
How
enjoy.
often how often do you DNF? 'Cause this is something I'm thinking about. Say you're I mean, I DNF series sometimes, but how often do you get midway through a book and go, "No, this isn't for me," and then
I
you just
rarely get midway through a book before I
yeah,
DNF.
yeah.
I'll usually get at most, I'll get a third. Um, I don't often DNF. Usually I'll know within the first 20, 30 pages,
Mhm.
like, okay, I'm in it. I love it.
Yeah.
Um, because I DNF'd, and also when I DNF, it doesn't mean DNF and put it away forever.
That's true, and
It
that's something
also
people often say, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that, yeah, we all say DNF, but I don't think that's what it always means for all of us.
Yeah.
We might return to that book later. I, tried Pines by Blake Crouch.
Okay.
It wasn't the book's fault, I just wasn't in it. I wanted something else. So I tried Shirley Jackson, um, We Have Always Lived in a Castle or something like that. Um, Ripped through it, loved it, and now I'm on The Shining, and I'm loving that. Um, but and it's funny, we talk about hype. You look at The Shining, everyone talks about this book, not the immediate hype isn't there,
Mhm.
but there's a classic, like, aura, like, this is a book you need to read.
Well, it's interesting,
But
if you
it's
don't, I'm not cutting you off.
Yeah, no,
Sorry,
no,
when you
go ahead, sorry.
it's interesting, Stephen King, because you referred to him as your popcorn earlier, you know, your
Yeah,
almost your comfort food, and I
yeah.
would almost, I don't know, I'm beginning to dispute that. Listen, some Stephen King is garbage. I'll name names, right? Cell is garbage. Under the Dome, maybe controversially, is not a very good book.
Yeah.
What's the spiritual sequel to Christine that is just from a Buick 8? Nonsense, right? There is a smattering of Stephen King books that are punishment to read. Yet, I do think that like 20-30% of King's output, and this is not an attack on you, but the way King himself has called himself the Big Mac of authors. I just I just dispute it because I think what he does within his texts, especially with character, but also the thematic interconnections between his books, are so startling. And so I think The Shining is a really good example, and I'd argue Doctor Sleep is too, the sequel of books that actually carry more weight and heft than sometimes Stephen King's name suggests. So I'm so glad you're reading it. I think it's such a
Yeah,
good book.
I
Yeah,
think I agree with you on that. It's fun to study King and just the history because I didn't grow up with King.
yeah.
What? When did he start writing? Like in the 70s?
Ooh, 74, I think Carrie
Like,
was.
that's a
Let me check
long
that.
time.
Yep.
And I think that's so cool to study the history of, like, whoa, this guy's name became almost an instant, you know, boom, like Brandon Sanderson,
Yeah.
Sarah J. Maas.
Have you read his book on writing?
I have it. I started it a while ago, and I want to eventually when I'm in that headspace. But
Yeah.
I think
It's
it's fun to look at the history of his name and see just how much he's written. And not every book's going to be amazing. I didn't follow him because I didn't grow up with him.
Mhm.
I feel like, someone like Mike from Mike's Book Reviews, he grew up with Stephen King. He was on
Yep.
his book club.
Mhm.
So you're following this author and you have these expectations and you're surprised with some of the stories. And he's got so many different stories, a
Yeah.
variety,
Yeah.
so much. And I think that is so unique compared to many other authors. Many other authors are very much like, okay, I'm the Western guy, I'm the fantasy guy.
Mhm. Mhm.
King has all sorts, and I think that's. Oh boy, I have to take
It's
this.
me.
My
It's me.
wife.
I just want more of you.
So I'm gonna. You
I'm gonna
take
I'm gonna
over
talk to
that.
I'm gonna talk to your channel.
Okay.
Don't worry, you take it. Just make sure you're muted, yeah? Right. Hello, welcome. I'm Thomas R. Howell. And I'm not going to imitate anything he does, but welcome to the orange version of Thomas R. Howell. And you know what? I might go through some comments if that's okay. But let me just say, Stephen King. Oh my goodness. So I first read The Gunslinger when I was 19. Talk about soft to DNFs, right? I just thought this book was terrible. I read like the first 150 pages of The Gunslinger and went, this is nonsensical trash. And I put it down. And a year later, I was working in a wee coffee shop in the center of Glasgow. And my boss turns to me and she goes, have you read Stephen King? And I said, well, I tried The Gunslinger. And she went, David, as your boss, I want you to go home and I will buy you a copy and you have to read The Gunslinger one more time. And I did. And for some reason, that second reread just unlocked so much, so much. And I immediately just read The Drawing of the Three, book 2. And since then, I've maybe read 3 or 4 Stephen King books a year, and I just think he's phenomenal. And this is what I was kind of saying to Thomas. I think when you look at what he does between the books, there is so much depth there, right? Because there's that joke with Stephen King. He's a writer from Maine. She was also stealing the tips. So, there's pluses and minuses. But there's something with Stephen King where there's that joke where he's the writer from Maine. He's the writer from Maine, and he writes about writers from Maine. But actually, when you look at the parallels between all these different books that he does and his short stories too, I don't think Stephen King is a scary novelist. I think he's a terrifying short story writer. There's so much he does in his short stories that he just would not do in
Oh,
a
that's
conventional
crazy.
novel. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's so good. I'm just gushing about Stephen King. I told everyone I was going to get to the comments, Thomas, but I just started
Oh, yeah.
rattling away.
No,
Yeah.
I love King, man. That's why he's
Great.
so. And people are gonna find, scary is different for everyone. I've never really found him scary. Even
I'd
Pet
agree.
Sematary, and everyone's like, "Oh, wait till you have kids." It's like, well, yes and no, but also it's like he's just the way he, I don't know, presents things. It's very like, oh, okay, that was shocking, but okay.
I don't think his monsters are scary. I think his framing of, addiction is the big one, right? Because Stephen King is so famously an addict, but also his depiction of loss and what it's like to lose someone and how you can lose someone suddenly, and that's heartbreak. And also you can lose someone gradually, and that's also a different kind of heartbreak. And that's also really interesting, right? Because one thing Stephen King flippin' loves to do is foreshadowing. He'll say, and that was the last time that person A ever saw person B ever again. And so it's almost like he gives you both at the same time, right? Like we know and we're feeling this build up to loss, but the character experiences it so suddenly. You get both at the same time. I
Yeah,
think he's phenomenal, and I'm also aware, not to be too sad, he's getting up there, man. Like he's pushing 80.
yeah, we
Um,
don't think
yeah,
about that. We're just like, "Oh my
yeah,
gosh, he's been around for a
yeah.
while."
But he's left he is leaving such a magnificent bibliography
Oh, yeah.
behind. Yeah.
It's incredible. Even though, like, I lean more toward his classic stories.
Mhm.
I haven't really much enjoyed a lot of his other stuff that have come out post. Granted, I know I need to read the JFK one. I will. But
It's so good.
that's a book I'm pushing off. I'm like, I'm gonna come to that when I'm ready.
Do you know
Uh,
what though? If you like Lonesome Dove, it hits a lot of similar
that's why I'm
dark
trying not. I
segments.
don't wanna
Yeah.
approach it until I'm ready. I'm going to put that emotional weight on it. I'm going to put that, hey, that's probably a once in a lifetime kind of read. Whereas
Mm.
The Shining, it's like, cool, adult goosebumps. I need to read this before I die,
Yeah.
Uh, uh,
Have you watched the movie for The Shining?
yeah, a long time ago. So I'm going to watch it after I read it because I know it's completely different. and I already can tell I'm, about halfway through, and it's immensely different, and I'm happy that it's different because means it's something new for me. Means I could be surprised. Glad to be here. Yeah, sorry, guys. I'm just been.
Can we do some comments?
What?
Shall we do some comments? Because I know we've been ignoring everyone quite heartily, and I do have some stuff I want to ask you. But I would love to get to some of the stuff that people have been saying while I open my can of Iron Brew. Have you ever heard of Iron Brew, Thomas?
No.
This is the drink of my nation. It is sugar and malnutrition in a can, but you can only get it in Scotland, really. So
I love it. I love to hear it. What? Just a lot of King stuff. Yeah, still haven't read it. I'll get to that eventually. That's just such a long book. Good evening, Thomas. Hope you're doing great. I'm in a bit of a reading slump, but it's all good. I'm not rushing and taking a slow. Nice. Well, I mean, if you're in a reading slump, go
There's
to
nothing
one
wrong with
author.
a reading slump. Yeah.
Go to an author that you just know is a tried and true. And that's Stephen King. He's the guy that gets me out of a slump every time.
And you know what? A Stephen King audiobook is a great way to go as well. If you don't even feel like you have the energy to look at a page, basically every single Stephen King novel is great as an audiobook. And short stories, I also think, are a really good way to escape a slump. And I'd also recommend the graphic novel Nimona. I've had friends who have had slumps, and I just say to them, read Nimona by N.D. Stevenson. It's incredible. So those would be my suggestions.
No Name.
Do we want to talk Malazan?
No Name is just you could talk about Malazan, but I have my reading plans in mind. I'm not touching Malazan for years. I'm just same thing with Way of Kings. Like everyone's like, oh, you got to read Way of Kings. Oh, you got to read Malazan. It's like, guys, I don't even know when I'm going to return to fantasy. That's the thing.
You know what, though?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a way to phrase this question. Malazan is really brilliant and rewarding. Yeah. But it's hard work. And I mean that in the sense of like you're constantly trying to remember who's who and which city's which and how things relate to one another and what is the structure of this world. And I wonder, Thomas, a lot of the stories that you love are much more intimate. Does that make sense? Like Lonesome Dove is so intimate. The Shining is so intimate. It's a few people that you get to know inside out. And that's not to say that the character work in Malazan is bad, but it's different. And I do wonder how you would find something like Malazan. I think Joanna might have said something similar to you, right? It requires, it's so big picture. It's so big picture that maybe it's not going to be something that you necessarily gel with.
Oh, whoa. We got fighting words right here. Yeah, don't start those series, Thomas. Continue reading good books. Oh, gosh. I can only
someone from the chat.
a chapter or two a day with Malazan. It's just so dense. See, that's the effort's worth it. That's awesome. I'm just not looking forward to putting in homework right now.
Books is homework. Yeah, books is vegetables.
Like Wheel of Time, whether you like it or not, it was already pretty dense. And just knowing I'm in a series of 14 books, that alone is just a lot for me. But I went through it and it was great. I know Malazan's going to be much more dense and, not linear by any means. And that's why I'm reading King, because it's a fun little ghost story.
I'm quite dense, but you enjoy me.
I very much enjoy you.
This book is similar, by the way. It does feel a bit homeworky, rewarding homework. So yeah. Can I change gears? Because I wanted to pick your brain about something.
It's so tough for me to not treat reading as a buffet and devote weeks, months to a single one series.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know when I'm going to get into a series yet.
Well, before I ask you what I was going to ask you, I've messaged you privately about this a couple of times. How are you feeling about the Lonesome Dove sequels?
I'm going to approach them when I'm ready. I adamantly want to sit with Lonesome Dove for a very long time. Yeah. I know I want to read the sequels, and I know you approached me. I just was in the middle of reading Lonesome Dove. I didn't even want to think of sequels or what these sequels or prequels cover, let alone character names. I just didn't want to know. Lonesome Dove is a book that you can read on its own without even the sequels. Guarantee. Yes. Guarantee it. You don't need to read that book does so much without other books.
Well, even though book 2 was written like 15 years after book 1, there was a big time gap as well.
That's the beauty of it. So I want to read those books. I love Larry McMurtry's writing. What I want is to hold Lonesome Dove up on a pedestal for as long as I can and not potentially have sequels and prequels not ruin it for me, but ruin the overarch, like just ruin it. I don't want it to ruin it.
Because I have a follow-up question for you in that case, if you don't mind, which is that you've said a couple of times, it took me 5 months to read Lonesome Dove. It was a 5-month project. Was that because you found yourself so busy with life that you were taking it slow, or was it a conscious, deliberate, I love this book and I want to tease it out for as long as possible?
It was both. It was in the middle of, I had a lot of work, because usually I get a lot of work before, finishing up a lot of work before the holidays. Holidays, the beginning of the year, I had a lot of work. So life was busy, but also it was very conscious to just read when I could. Something I'll note in my review, it's not a page turner. Chapters don't end with, and then he turned the corner and saw.
And when that does happen, you have to wait about 70 pages for it to get resolved. Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's not that type of book. And there were nights where I could have kept reading, but I closed the book after a chapter because that chapter was so heavy. And I wanted to take it as slow as I could, because it was just, it was a perfect book. Emotionally, narratively, perfect. And the feelings that I was feeling, I wanted to sit with them. I wanted to sit with my thoughts. I didn't want to just rush in, because it's that type of book. So when it comes to the sequels, I'm not at all. Plus, I don't want to go buy them right now. I don't want to, I have a lot of other books on my shelf that I would want to get to before. Yeah. What about you? How was your reading experience with Lonesome Dove?
You know what? It's kind of interesting because I actually soft DNF'd Lonesome Dove the first time. Talking about books that you walk away from, DNFY did not finish yet. That was Lonesome Dove for me. I brought it on a vacation like 4 or 5 years ago. And I brought this one book, it was like a 3-week trip. And I thought, you know what, this book is solid as a brick. That will do me. And I committed. And this was the issue, I think. I decided,
also, keep it spoiler free.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So just don't talk about when the dragons come, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, when Gus takes out the flamethrower.
Yeah.
So I got about a third to half of the way through. And I committed, it wasn't really important to commit like this, but I thought, 40, 50 pages a night. And I just, over about a week and a half, stopped coming to it. And it was very much not anything to do with the quality of the book. It was just where I was at the time, which was just cognitively overloaded. I mean, my son was like 1 at the time. And I turned it off and I turned on Netflix, and I think I watched Squid Game or something like Squid Game instead. And I just moved over to a different media. And this is an interesting thing about reading too, right? We're talking about busyness. It's not just work, family, book. Work, family, a medley of other hobbies that you want to keep engaged with, right? Like we both like video games.
Exactly.
And I just felt like this is not in my bandwidth right now. And I did put it back in my bag. I don't think I read anything that trip, which is really unusual for me. And then it was Christmas about a year and a half ago, Christmas 2024 into 2025, just before I started my channel. I picked it back up. And that thing, or maybe this is just a me thing, when you're going on vacation and you're looking at like 3 or 4 different book choices, and it's almost like a sacred ritual. I don't know if this speaks to anyone else at all. And I'm like, and you take them all down and you inspect them. And I took down Lonesome Dove. And it was phenomenal. And I'm so glad that I DNF'd that story back then, when it would have been, as we were discussing earlier, homework, so that I could genuinely interact with this text. It was so good. And you know what? I don't think it's a coincidence that I started my YouTube channel basically the week after I finished Lonesome Dove. I was just so inspired by it. Very quickly, going back to the sequel chat, I've only read this. There's 2 prequels and 1 sequel. Spoiler free, totally. The sequel's really good. Lonesome Dove, it is not. But Lonesome Dove is Lonesome Dove. You know, it is something so special. But the reason I asked you if you were interested in reading the sequels is kind of because sometimes when you read a sequel or you watch a sequel, it can mar what came before, right? So the Star Wars sequels are a really famous example, like 7, 8, 9 have retrospectively colored how you view someone like Luke Skywalker. And the new Peaky Blinders movie has just come out, and I haven't watched it, but I've seen a couple of reviews saying, listen, it will kind of change your perception of what's come before. 3 Body Problem. There's a 4th book written by a different author that apparently rejigs some stuff. So I think we have to be careful with reading sequels, because
I agree.
It's not just that they will be a good or bad experience, but they can temper that original glorious experience that you had.
They can tarnish it. I think. Let me get to the. I do have the first Wheel of Time book. Is the series approachable? It's approachable, but it's a lot. It's a long one. You're in for the long haul, but also don't feel obligated to read it all the way through. Take breaks. Maybe go to an author that you enjoy, kind of like your popcorn potato chip author. In between, maybe read Wheel of Time in sections of like 3 books at a time, if you know, to kind of stay immersed in that series. But back to the sequel thing. That's why I'm not diving into the sequels just yet. Also, I want my thoughts to keep coming after I finish the book. I don't want other books to influence my thoughts on these characters, or even just how I look at characters. We recently finished Twin Peaks season 3. I don't know if you're familiar, but Twin Peaks is by David Lynch and Mark Frost. David Lynch is David Lynch. He's the most unique filmmaker ever. He doesn't do things traditionally. His work really has you turn your head sideways and just kind of go, what? And there's a reason for that. And I don't want things explained. I don't want blanks filled in through other YouTube videos after I've finished Twin Peaks. I don't need things explained to me. Let me sit with that painting and come up with my own conclusions. So same thing happens with sequels. There are many questions I might have, or perspectives or thoughts on certain characters in Lonesome Dove. And maybe I wanted to sit with them a little longer. But I don't want the sequels to fill in those blanks.
Yeah.
I want my questions to still come up. And because once those questions are answered, why return in your mind? Why return with questions and thoughts about those things if it's all answered?
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's important for ambiguity, and also authors and film directors to not explain everything, to not even explain everything after the fact. Oh, this is what the film ending meant. Yeah. Don't tell me. Let me think. Because the moment you answer those questions, we stop thinking.
I think there's 2 different types of like really good text. However, I have a preference, and I know which one yours will be too, which is you can finish something really rich and complicated, and you can either go on the internet and find out more, which is kind of what you're saying, or you can go for a walk. You kind of, when you finish something mind-blowing, you do one of those 2 things. And I think the walk is always better than going on the internet. Of course, I'm like, we're speaking at the start that reading is both personal and social, especially on Booktube. But I think maybe sometimes, yes, the social can take away from the personal. And I think you are wise in letting your thoughts and feelings percolate. Absolutely.
It's very
Yeah.
important. I think
Yeah.
it is fun to jump to people's book reviews right after you finish a book. We would often do that with Wheel of Time. Okay, let's go to Mike's book reviews. Let's see what he has to say because it's fun.
Yep.
It's traditional. I go to two to ramble, but I just want to sit with my own thoughts for a bit
Yeah.
before I go and see what other people are thinking
Yeah.
and join that conversation. Because it is fun to, when you finish a book, it's exciting to, oh, cool, I'm part of a club now. I finished that book,
Exactly.
and I
Exactly.
can join that conversation. However, let me navigate my own thoughts first and my own conclusions before I join that conversation.
Yeah. And it can be the same with video games too, right? Like Red Dead
Exactly.
Redemption 2,
Very much.
Elden Ring, I know we've spoken about previously.
Yeah.
BioShock Infinite. Did you ever play the BioShock games back in the day?
I played Infinite, but I didn't really care too much for the weight that it wanted to throw on me. I very
At
much
the end, you mean?
enjoyed the slow burn of Red Dead 2 and Witcher 3
Yeah.
way more.
But those are all games where either because it's complexity of story or just the emotional weight that these stories have, you immediately want to share that with someone. And that's the other thing as well. Like when you've had this amazing experience with a text or a story, you want to kind of evangelize it. You want to go online and say, hey, have you read this? I mean, we had that wonderful
Yeah.
comment earlier saying, please, can you tell Thomas about Malazan Book of the Fallen?
Yeah.
And that's because that commenter is so, love you, man, because that commenter is so entranced with his or her experience, they want to offer that up to you. And there's
No,
that
I
kind of
agree.
sharing element too.
I agree, and
It's
I always
wonderful, but there's also
appreciate
pitfalls.
I
Yeah.
always appreciate No Name. Trust me, I will get to Malazan, but much like you putting down Lonesome Dove and then coming back to it when the time was right. When I approach Malazan, I feel like that time will be right, and my headspace will be in it, because I would hate to disrespect Malazan
Mhm.
with the wrong attitude, and my experience being half-hearted, because I want to give it a fair shake. Midnight. Here's a question: is Wheel of Time easier to get into if you're at the beginning of being a fantasy fan or a veteran? Ooh,
Can I
that's
I think
interesting.
it's
Yeah, you go
a
right
very good
ahead.
series to start with. And then that is not with any level of condescension towards Wheel of Time fans.
I don't think
Um, I
it's
think
good for beginning fans, in my opinion.
I think it's that bridge between older fantasy. I mean, you can dispute what that is, but let's say it's a bridge between something like Tolkien and something like Joe Abercrombie, and that's hugely general. There's lots of little subcategories I'm ignoring, but it kind of sits in the middle of those things. And so I think it's nice to read it first and then see what some of those later authors are responding to, for better or for worse. And again, that's not to deride Wheel of Time, although it's not my thing personally. I just think it's better to do at the beginning as maybe as an adult fantasy reader, one of your first big go rounds. Would that be fair? Would you disagree with that, Thomas?
It's tough because we'll always have our pet book
Yeah.
that we discovered, and gosh dang it, nothing's gonna beat it.
Yeah.
We're gonna compare everything to it.
Yep.
I have friends who fantasy is Lord of the Rings and nothing is beyond it. Nothing. Modern fantasy is garbage and it's a waste of their time. Uh, it goes for anything. So if Name of the Wind, that was my thing. But that was the book that got me into consistently reading. And without that, I wouldn't have the appreciation for books like Lonesome Dove, that slow pace. Granted, I think it also helped me figure out what my tastes were.
Mhm.
But also I'm able to separate. Like the longer I took from Name of the Wind, the more I was able to push it aside and approach books objectively, without having Name of the Wind uh, cater my thoughts on the book I'm reading. So if you read Lord of the Rings first, and that is what fantasy is to you, you might, I don't know, it might be tough for you to come and approach something as Brandon Sanderson or Wheel of Time. It's tough.
This might seem a bit tangential, but I think one thing to be aware of, this is something we kind of consciously teach at my school, is the idea that you're not just reading a book in isolation, right? You're reading a book as part of a larger network of text that is being built inside your head, right? And that's a good thing. I know we were talking about the fact that you want to sit with a book and percolate on a book, but also what you're doing when you're percolating is you're connecting it to other things you've read previously, right? These characters in Lonesome Dove, the concerns that they're dealing with, how is that different from the protagonist in book X? And this theme here, or this setting, how is it dealt with differently in, for example, Gone with the Wind or Blood Meridian? And so what you have in your head when you're engaging with the text is not just the characters, it's also all these different elements, these spider webs, this neural network of stuff is interacting in your brain. And I think that's something always to be conscious of. So I do think it's a really good question. And of course, it's not just texts, right? When you're finishing a book and ruminating on it, you're also thinking about video games that you've played and memories from your past and film that you love and hobbies that you enjoy. And so when we say this thing is you're sitting with it, what's really happening is all the stuff around is coming together to form your opinion or emotion on that book. So I think questions like this are really, really important because we should be kind of conscious of the text that we're grafting into each other, if that makes any
Good to be
sense.
conscious.
Yeah.
It's good to be objective and sit with something, compare and contrast, because if you don't know what you like, it's going to be tough. You're always going to want something to compare things to and praise something or the opposite, critique things.
That's why it's important, sorry to interrupt, Thomas, that you were saying, I don't know when I'm going to get back to fantasy. And I know you weren't saying that as a negative, but I think that's also a brilliant positive, right? Because it means that your repertoire of texts is, you're able to make greater comparisons and things like that.
Yeah. We are getting behind on. We loved Royal Assassin, Dune as well. Need to get. Oh, okay. Well, then you'll understand slow pace. Then I think you'll be fine with Wheel of Time easily. Yeah. If you like Robin Hobb, I mean, granted, Robin Hobb I think is a much more poetic writer, much more intentional with word choice, but still slow in pace.
Mm-hmm.
And much more intimate than Wheel of Time, but there is intimacy within Wheel of Time because it's 14 books long. You do get to sit with a lot of characters. So you'll be fine. If you're going to give Wheel of Time a shot, give the first 3 books a try, because books 2 and 3 you'll realize, oh, okay, it's going for something different than the typical tropey stuff that it seems to allude to. But if you don't like it, then
I was going to say,
jump off it. You're not obligated to finish it. At least give it a fair shake. I want to give, same thing with like Sun Eater. I want to give it to book 2.
mm-hmm.
If I don't like it at the end of book 2, then I'm done. I'm not going to give it a try.
I was just going to say that if you buy all 14 Wheel of Time books and you don't like them, just buy some cement and then build an extension on your house.
Yeah, you'll be good. You'll be good.
Yeah.
You'll make a nice coffee table with that or something.
Thomas, I wanted to ask you about your experience making videos for your channel. So I was thinking about this as we were talking in the background before we went live, because your videos always have this very lovely, casual, conversational, beautiful pace to them. And they feel very relaxed. And I'm sure that's very intentional with you as a filmmaker. But I'm also quite curious, if you don't mind me just pulling back the veil a little bit, how you go about making videos for your channel. How much goes on behind the scenes? How much do you think in advance about what you want to make, and how much of it is spur of the moment? How much editing and stuff you were talking about the light earlier, for example.
There is. Yeah. So right now the lighting is prime. So like you got like between 9 and 10, it's a little too blue in that corner. So now it's like kind of gold, it's kind of warm. So there's that timing I have to consider. I pre-shoot my coffee shots because there are specific pockets of light that come through at like 8 and 9 and other areas of the place that I like to put my book and my cup where I can get some rim lighting or just get some dynamic lighting on that. So that's preemptive as well. Ideas sometimes are spur of the moment. Sometimes it's just a question that my friend will ask me, or that I'll get an idea from another video. I'm like, maybe not stealing an idea of a video, but asking a question in response to a video. Sometimes it'll be just me thinking before I go to bed or on a drive. And sometimes I want to write some notes down, get my thoughts down. Whereas like my Lonesome Dove review, that is definitely has been in the making. All my notes, like right here, just.
Oh, I use the Notes app too. Wow. Okay,
So
you use the Notes app more than me.
There's a lot of notes because I want to make sure my thoughts are a little more organized. So, a little back and forth, like spur of the moment, some are planned, editing. I like to just keep the camera rolling, and I try to have my thoughts come out as smooth as possible. If I feel like I slurred or stuttered, I'll pause, entertain that thought. That way it just is smooth.
Yeah.
And not like a live stream with me saying like and
I love an
I hate that.
I do it all the time.
It's very interesting. Especially there's certain folks you can see online, certain celebrities who are very good at pausing.
Yes.
Not saying or like. And then you'll look at other people, especially young folk. I know I say young folk, but that late teens to early 20s, because I live in a college town, and I'll go to a coffee shop and you'll just kind of overhear thoughts, people talking, and it's just like this, like. And they try to, it's just funny hearing them say, when you say like, a simile, you're not really providing that contrast or painting that picture. I don't know. I can't come up with an example right now, but it's interesting. So then I try to be a little more thoughtful with my thoughts.
Yeah.
And not just say like, or this book was really bookish. This music was really musical.
It was.
I've heard that, and it's very interesting hearing people compare things with the word that they're trying to describe.
Yes. I mean, this is something that you have to try and I try and teach as well with kids, because often you'll find that kids will say something along the lines of, even when they're talking about their own work, they'll say, I used a full stop, whatever, to make the reader consider more deeply. And they'll stop there. And there's further to go with that line of thinking, but it needs to be unlocked a little bit. And I think it's the same with speech. I mean, just talking about teaching a little bit more, one thing I do with my kids in my class is they hate this. I mean, they hate this, but I do it anyway because I like to see children suffer. It's why I became a teacher, Thomas. I have them transcribe their own speech. I'll say, talk about baseball for 90 seconds, record it, then transcribe it, and then annotate it and explore your own voice, right? Explore what you sound like, because I don't think we're always aware of how we're coming across. And I think one of the things that I've really enjoyed doing on Booktube is I've been able to see what I'm like on the other side, because we think we know what we're like until we watch ourselves and hear ourselves. And I think, although that is really, it's suffering to begin with, when you haven't done it before, you're having to watch yourself back and listen to yourself. But it really is a good way to unlock the positives of your mannerisms and the things maybe you also want to cut down a little bit, like the filler words. I will say, Brandon Sanderson, love him. He is an all the way home. And watching him speak gives me such joy, because I'm like, if someone along the same lines as Brandon Sanderson, so successful, and I would argue erudite, is also umming, then there's hope for the rest of us. So I guess that's what I'd say to that.
Same thing with Patrick Rothfuss.
Is he an
Insufferable
Yeah.
to listen to talk.
Yeah.
I refuse to watch any videos of him now because how can that man come up with something so beautiful? I don't get it. It
Book
boggles
three's
my
taking
mind.
so long because he's cutting all the ums out.
I don't care about book 3. I'm not, it's people need to same thing with George R. R. Martin. When I think of people just putting out books left and right, you got Dungeon Crawler Carl, you got Sarah J. Maas, you got Brandon Sanderson. All these books just boom every couple years. And they're coming out every couple years. They're not being written within that time. They're being written and edited and published, printed and published. So the writing process is even shorter than 2 years.
Yes.
I've said this now, I think, on 2 live streams. Donna Tartt, I've yet to read her, but I love what she had to say in a couple interviews with just, I don't want to write fast. I want to take my time.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. So whatever you think about, however you think about George R. R. Martin, Patrick Rothfuss, whatever drama they've gotten themselves into, their personalities, that doesn't matter. I still appreciate their intentionality and their approach to writing.
If I could, I don't want to say push back because I totally agree with you. And I don't think any author should be beholden to having stuff published
But
within a
again,
certain
there
time
is the
frame.
publisher and
Yes, true.
expectations.
Well, there is a monetary element to this as well. But there's something also interesting going on here, which is that I think we all kind of rope these authors in as having the same capabilities, right? If we just take Brandon Sanderson and we put him in a room and we say, you have 200,000 words and no more, and with these 10 years, you must craft something as exquisitely written as The Name of the Wind.
Point. It's a very good point.
Love Brando Sando. He could not do that. I think we would have an equal quality or slightly better quality than the average Brandon Sanderson book, within that 10-year deadline, because that's not Brandon Sanderson's strength. And at the same time, I think if we took someone, Martin is a bit different, I think, but if we took Rothfuss and we put him in a room for 1 year and said, listen, no matter what, you have to produce an 100,000-page novel.
Exactly.
And he could not do that either. I think it's not just some writers are harder workers than others necessarily. It's also about style being tied to pace.
Yeah.
And ability.
And
I think
knowing their style,
unable to do what the other does.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Wow. I like that a lot.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I like that.
Because say anything about Rothfuss, I think you have to say he is just a brilliant line-by-line writer. And Sanderson is an incredible plotter, but their strengths do not overlap.
Cinematic pace.
Yeah. It's like when people talk about Brandon Sanderson potentially finishing Song of Ice and Fire or whatever that conversation is. It's not his strength. The writers are different.
It was amazing to see him finish. That's why I feel like you need to. Again, if you don't like Wheel of Time, it would be fun for you to finish it with Brandon Sanderson, because then you see, oh, whoa, he actually emulated Robert Jordan with his own flair.
Yes.
And he took all these notes and ended it in 3 books. Incredible. Yeah. But his work is not my style. I love those 3 books, and then I talk about Name of the Wind, and I've got my best friend reading it, got another good friend reading it. They both say the plot, not really there. I'm like, yeah, but that's not the point. I know that sounds crazy, but for me, taking 5-6 years now off of, from reading Name of the Wind and Wise Man's Fear, I realize why I love those books so much is because of the writing style, the pace. That's it. I think you can still enjoy a book for that. Agreed. It doesn't have to be a good plot or a good character work. I think you can appreciate a book for what it is because of those factors. I think everyone says, oh, I could, certain fans can read Patrick Rothfuss describe paint drying I'd read that book.
It's called A Slow Regard of Silent Things.
Yeah, yeah. And the funny thing is, reading Shirley Jackson, very similar to that book, especially. Do you?
I've only read The Lottery, and I've taught The Lottery. It's great, but
Oh, that's one of her books.
that's all as far as I've gone with Shirley Jackson.
Give the Haunted House one and the Castle one. Great books.
We have always lived in the castle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was her last book, and I think it was her best.
Was she prolific? Like, how much stuff does she have?
No idea.
Yeah.
I'd have to look. Yeah.
You know, but I think there's an analogy. We're talking about writers and just having different strengths. And I'm now sitting looking at you talking marvelously, and I'm sitting here thinking about you talking about your rim lighting, and I could never do that. I'll be honest with you. That is not in my forte. I think there's a good analogy there with kind of booktubers, that we all have our different strengths, and that's a wonder and not a deficit, you know.
And the strengths of people being able to map out their videos and time it and really be consistently posting. It's phenomenal. I could never do that. Like right now, I wanted to get my review out by Friday, but I don't think I can.
Yeah.
I'd have to cut this stream short.
Do you ever feel pressure to meet deadlines on Booktube?
Yeah, right now I like to get a video out on Friday.
Yeah.
I like to get a video out at least once a week. I like that if I had a perfect timing of everything, I do a video Monday, Friday, and a live stream Wednesday. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But right now I feel like reviews got to be pushed back, either Sunday or Monday.
For me, it's like I usually get a video out every week to some capacity. But for me, the thing I'd love to do more of is these kind of slightly deeper dives. I did a video on Thomas Ligotti, who I don't necessarily recommend to you. He's kind of the successor in some ways to Lovecraft. And I really enjoyed making that video, but that video was something special to me because I had a few hours to kind of find some quotations and make some notes and scaffold and structure that video. And I have so many different ideas for similar videos, but it's just time. It's just time, man. Like for me, my day I shouldn't know. I was going to say my day starts at 8 p.m. when my children go to sleep. But that's a lie for two reasons. Number one, that implies that what I do during the day does not matter, and my children matter more than my YouTube channel. And second of all, they don't go to sleep at 8. They go to sleep whenever they bloody well please. So it's a lie on both elements. But I just find, I guess, just time being such a crunch that it's easier for me to turn on my phone. And for me, it literally is an iPhone and witter away. But one thing I'm aching to do is some more deeper stuff to latch onto.
It's tough to do deep dives because I don't feel qualified to do a deep dive. And it's tough to do a deep dive by myself.
Yeah.
I could talk about Lonesome Dove until I'm blue in the face with someone else on camera. Having that back and forth conversation, their thoughts, their questions, and then we can go back and forth. But when it's by myself, like these notes can only go so far. Granted, everyone has their own journey and their own thoughts of the book that they read. And you and I could read the same book. Yes. We're always going to have our own different thoughts.
Yeah.
And that'll make our videos different and unique from each other. But padding for time and making something deeper and more, less surface level, I don't know. I just haven't done that very often.
There's also an intimidation factor, as you were kind of alluding to, right? When you have, like, I'll use Lonesome Dove as an example, but it's not really about either of us. It's just, we've both read that book once, and we could put us in a room for a day and make this video essay type thing on Lonesome Dove. But you're also aware at the same time there are people who have written scholarly articles on Lonesome Dove, and you're aware that there are people who've been through that text 6 or 7 times. And so when you release something that goes a little bit more granular on a text like that, there is fear.
Yeah.
What if person XYZ goes, no, that's wrong? And that as much as we try and distance ourselves from that exists.
I think it exists, But if you don't expose yourself to that beforehand, then you're fine.
Yeah.
I haven't really looked at anyone else's review of
Yeah.
the book. So my thoughts are my own. I've looked a little bit at Tudor Rambles just because I am emulating their process of like the sections of their review because I really like their process. They do like a spoiler-free pitch, then they dive into emotional impact, things that were thought-provoking, characters, and then plot. And I really like that process. Granted, they have each other to bounce off of. They have their own
They're
different
so personable. Yeah.
and they're great, and they have that chemistry with one another. Whereas for me, I don't think I can do a 3-hour review of Lonesome Dove like they did because I'm just talking to the camera, not to someone else.
I think it also helps that they're physically in the room with each other and they have that physical repartee.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My aunt, Chris, she's adorable and the sweetest thing ever. I would very much love to get her on this channel and do a review of Lonesome Dove with her. But I think she'd be too shy. But she's reading it now, and every time we meet up and hang out and we're talking about it, some of the things she says and brings up, I'm just, oh, the internet, the world needs to hear that from you. So cool. She even started Wheel of Time too, and she was loving it. But I think she's just a cheerleader, regardless of what you put in front of her.
Do you know, you're making me think of this. This will come back round. This is going to seem like I'm going off, but I'm going to come back. There's a C.S. Lewis quote about grief, and it's something along the lines of, I don't just grieve that person. I also grieve. I've also lost the way one of my friends is when they're with that person. That part of that person's personality, although they're still alive, is lost because we've lost this person. And no one else will make this person laugh like this person made them laugh. And I think there's an analogy there with books too, because books can tease out a certain part of you that had previously been kind of undisclosed or undiscovered, and that when your aunt is reading Lonesome Dove, that is going to elicit a reaction from her that is going to be joyous for you to experience. And I think that going back to that social element of books, and it's sometimes good and it's sometimes bad. That is the joy of talking about books. It's not just that you're bandying back and forth the quotes and ideas. All of that is fun. You're also seeing a new part of that person you're reading with, and you're also seeing new, and I guess a different side of their personality as they contend with the ideas. It's not really about the ideas; it's about how the ideas shape you as a person. So yeah, I had a big smile on my face.
Especially when they're reading out of their comfort zone or just reading something new. Like my friend John, slowest reader in the world, took him 3 years to read Grant. He read Dune and Lord of the Rings at the age of like 10. Now he's reading Name of the Wind. So it's exciting to see him read something totally different, not classic. And it'll be fun to have those conversations with him about that book and hear his ideas come about from that.
Yes. I think it's difficult because there's a thing with buddy reads on YouTube and Booktube where they happen and they can sometimes feel like a little bit of a burden at the time. I have to finish this book by the end of this month because I'm reading it with person XYZ.
Something happened with you and Joanna with Sun Eater.
Yeah, eventually I just read it. It's fine. But there's also so much joy when you actually get together. And I know that some people will share their thoughts as they're reading it with each other, and some people will just wait till the cameras start rolling and then it all comes up. But either way, it's that shared experience, isn't it? You do feel tighter with someone for having gone through a reading experience with them.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Why is Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy so neglected by booktubers? Why is Last Unicorn so neglected? That's right. I'm right there with you. No one talks about Last Unicorn. No one. It's one of the greatest fantasy books ever written, and people got to read it. People got to read it. I really want to read Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. Absolutely.
I'm pretty sure there's been a few buddy reads I've seen recently of people reading it. It's Tad Williams, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen a few Tad Williams read-alongs.
I think this person's saying it's not hyped up like Vampire Empire or Sun Eater or Dungeon Crawler Carl. Right now, Hail Mary. You know, at first it was Wuthering Heights. Now it's Hail Mary.
Do you
Yeah,
know
no one's talking about
Bridger?
Sorrow and Thorn.
Bridger from the Library Ladder, I think it was him, had a video on Tad Williams, and he basically said something along the lines of Tad Williams just started writing at the worst possible time. If he'd start,
Yeah.
yeah, there you go. If he'd written 10 years later, he'd be really famous, or 10 years earlier, he'd be really famous. But because he was in this sort of fantasy void when no one was reading it quite so much, and Game of Thrones hadn't shot up, he became the victim of his publication date.
Yeah, I'm excited to read it. Last Unicorn, yeah, that's something. That is something. It's crazy to think Hail Mary, Project Hail Mary is like 4 or 5 years old. Came out published 2021, so it is a modern book, and they just now came out with a film. It's crazy.
Who stars? Ryan Gosling?
Yeah, it's crazy.
All you need to do is cast Ryan Gosling as the last unicorn, and you'll get some movie tickets sold, and everything will be.
Or the Vampire of the Empire. Yeah, I have
going to build your TBR
waiting for me too. That does sound like a fun concept. But yeah, this will most likely be my return to fantasy. Eventually, I'm waiting for it.
Are you gonna keep on going with Robin Hobb?
I don't know yet, but I will eventually. I mean, down the line. I'm just not interested. And it is interesting. That trilogy, although I loved book 1, I don't feel called to return to it anytime soon. It's very interesting.
I know you're going to. I know you're not saying I'm not going to continue because of quality, but I would also just reassure you that when you do return, they are spectacular, whenever that may be.
And that's probably why I'm pushing it off, because I know the quality is there, and I just I don't. Lonesome Dove was such an emotional weight that I just want to read for fun now. Although I enjoyed my time immensely with Lonesome Dove, I don't want to read Shakespeare anytime soon. I just want a bag of potato chips, and Stephen King is my guy.
Listen, do you know what I just finished? I just finished the Zombie series by Darren Shan, which is the most, and I've interviewed Darren Shan, and I think some of his other works are really quality, or at least quality where they sit, which is young adult horror. Zombie series was pure nonsense. It's like 12 novels of this little girl, she's a teenager, becomes a zombie and then runs around London for 12 novels. And it's absolutely hokey and silly, and not as well written as his other series in my estimation. But I had fun with it, and I audiobooked it, and I played some RuneScape while I was listening to these 12 books. Each of them are like 3 hours long, so altogether that's basically one Wheel of Time novel, right? So they're but it was what I needed. I just come off of a long plane, and I had a stack of marking that's up there that I'm procrastinating. I didn't want to read. As much as this book is flipping well executed, I didn't have the cognitive capacity for it. So I just every night, a couple of these zombie books that are, to be perfectly honest with you, a bit rubbish, but also exactly what I needed at the time.
Yeah.
So
It's fun when you get those books that just cleanse the palate and get you back into reading and kind of create that momentum. And thankfully, the momentum is not pressured by Booktube. It's cool. I'm reading The Shining when it's 90 degrees outside. And cool thing is, I've grown a little bit more as a reader, or changed or developed, where weather is no longer influencing my reads. Last year, if you asked me, when are you going to read The Shining? Oh, I'm going to read it in November and December, maybe January. I'll wait till it's raining and cold. No, not anymore. That little thing in my head, I'm just like, no.
A good enough book will make you feel cold when it's 102 degrees outside. And I used to live in the Middle East, so I know what that's like.
Right here, All the Pretty Horses, Ryan. The read along with All the Pretty Horses, very fulfilling, enriched my knowledge, passion for the book. I've mentioned it before. Life is about the company, not just the journey and the destination. I love that.
The Crossing book 2 is
Yeah.
makes book 1
I've got
look
those books on
yeah.
myself, and we talk about Westerns. I think
Yeah.
I'm taking a break from Westerns. I read All the Pretty Horses, True Grit, and then Lonesome Dove, and that was 8 months of my life.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a break. So again, that's why The Shining, Stephen King, who knows what else is gonna call to me next, but
A lot
maybe
of people seem to be going for is it no, it's not Dostoevsky, it's Dumas. I think was it Daniel Green made his video on the Three Musketeers, and suddenly I'm seeing everyone adding that to their TBR.
yeah,
And whether or not that's the book I read in the next year or two, it certainly makes me want to go back to some of these kind of 19th, 18th century classics.
yeah,
So
I definitely wanna
yeah,
read some classics. The Life Ship Traders is the best I've read from her so far. Absolutely.
I think Tawny Man's better than Life Ship, Janelle. I don't know if you read it yet, but oh my goodness, that is a fabulous set of 3 books. The Golden Fool, which is almost exactly halfway through Realm of the Elderlings, was just I've never read a book like it, because without spoiling anything, I mean, it's book 8 and however many. Golden Fool is a middle book, both in that trilogy and in the broader Realm of the Elderlings canon, and it embraces that fact. You know, often with the middle book, it's accused of nothing happening, and the Golden Fool embraces that and says, "Okay, we're going to pause. We're going to spend 700 pages with these people, and they're going to bicker, and they're going to examine their relationships with each other, and that is the novel." And it pulls that off so gloriously. So, Janelle, if you think The Life Ship Traders is great, wonderful. I think you've got even more good stuff coming.
I'm excited for Life Ship Traders.
Mhm.
That's my sister, who's read easily 1,000 books, said that's her favorite trilogy of all time.
It's really well done. Yeah.
Yeah, and she didn't like Farseer trilogy. She thought it was boring, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's different for everyone.
She's an astounding novelist, Robin Hobb. I've got Rainwild's next, which is apparently her least successful quartet in that whole series. But I mean, I still can't imagine it will be bad. I mean, maybe I'll tell you in 6 months it is bad, but
Who knows?
bad Robin Hobb is still a damn fine writer.
Yeah, I'm happy I've
Yeah.
only read one of her books. I've got a lot to read from her, so that'll be fun to dive into when that time comes. You can't go wrong with Crime and Punishment. Yeah, I'm not. I have it on my shelf. It's like, okay, that's, yeah, you got to read it at least once in your life. But for me, I am not ready for that yet. That's too classic for me.
Well, I think this might be also a thing, Thomas. With we're talking about differences between booktubers.
Yeah.
For me, because I do tend to read several books a month, there's less pressure to get that book right. Does that make sense? I hope that doesn't sound too like I'm up myself too much. But if I choose a book and I read it, moving on. But for you, a book is a much more I don't want to use that word intimate again,
No,
but it's something you're sticking with for a longer while, and you want to make sure that book is right. Does that make sense? Would that be fair? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to just, oh, okay, I'll read Crime and Punishment because I want to read Crime and Punishment. Like I really have to be in it. There is an emotional I don't know, just layer that I bring in with my reading that helps me concentrate and immerse myself more in the text. I don't like to just read to read and check it off. And oh, see this right here. I want to read this so bad.
It's really good.
But I'm not. I've just read Lonesome Dove. I'm not reading that yet. I don't. It's like when you read or watch a really heavy drama about family. I'm not ready to dive into another one just yet.
It's devastating.
So I'm waiting for it. Same thing with Butcher's Crossing, but I just read a book about a crossing, so I'm not ready to dive into another thing just yet.
I have is it Augustus by John Williams on my PBR. Yeah, I've heard that one's phenomenal too. Yeah. I guess going back to what you were saying, it's kind of like going out for dinner with a friend or with someone. You know, if you're sitting there having a conversation for 4 hours, you want to make sure you're with the right person. And the right person might be different depending on the evening. You know, on a Monday evening, you've got work the next day. You might not want to be, you know, interacting so much with a certain person. Whereas if you've got, you know, the whole week ahead of you, you might want someone else, or maybe, you know, different people fit your mood, and it's the same with books. Yeah.
See, that's the thing. I agree here, but I never get that thought in my head where, oh, I could be reading something else, or I could be getting to something else right now. But I'm reading Lonesome Dove. Like, I don't want to like rush this, and I should be thankful for the time I have with Lonesome Dove. So I don't feel, me personally, in my reading journey, I don't feel that pressure or that question in my head. Like, I could be reading something else right now. I could be getting to this other book right now that's waiting for me.
Did you have that with Empire of Silence?
The Empire of Silence wasn't, it's never that thought in my head. It's the concentration on that book. It's the thought that I have on that book right now in the moment. This book sucks. I don't enjoy this book. Why am I not enjoying this book? These are the questions I ask myself. Same thing with Piranesi. Why am I not enjoying this? Let me write it down. Let me think about it. I'll get to those other books when I get to them. If I'm not enjoying that book and I see it all the way through, cool, whatever. But something like Pines. Oh my gosh, the sci-fi one. The British sci-fi one that I always forget.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah, that one, you know,
So
even
good.
Dungeon Crawler Carl, I'm just not enjoying it right now.
Yeah.
But I'm not influenced by the thought of, oh, there are so many other books I could be reading right now. That's why I'm putting the book down. I'm putting the book down because I'm not into it right now. Boom. Once it's pushed to the side, my attention is now on my shelf. I look at my books. Cool. I walk away. And then maybe a thought will pop up. You know what? The Shining sounds fun. Then my focus is on The Shining.
See, for me, I'm kind of the opposite, where it's not that I'm not heavily enjoying the book in front of me, but I get excited. I get excited by the next read. So I'm almost finished with
Oh, that happens too. Yeah. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. Yeah. That absolutely happens.
I'm like a puppy. I'm like, oh, well, this is really good, but I really want to read this and this and this. And it's like a Christmas tree just kind of opens up before kind of a fan unfurls, or like the man with the trench coat of wares. Which one will you buy next? And I do have that, and I get giddy and excited by the next read. I think, and although that does not take away from my enjoyment of the text I'm currently reading, it does take a level of discipline, not for me to have kind of 5 books on the go at the same time. And it's not because this book is rubbish; it's because I know all the other ones are good too. So I think what I do tend to read several books at once, but the way I kind of get around it is I'll have my main book, and I'll have a book that is my coffee table book at work, and I'll have a book on my phone on Kindle, and they'll all be very different from each other as well. One might be a collection of short stories, one might be some criticism, and then one might be a proper big, thick novel.
Love this. Additionally, a book not enjoyed is not a waste of time. Everything you don't like is an education and shapes your reading taste. Amen. Exactly. Or just, hey, I'm not in the mood for this right now. Maybe later. Or really, I don't like this book. I'm never revisiting it again. And now I know what I don't like. I'm going to put that away in my storage unit and use that going forward to evaluate my next read. And same thing happens with films. Same thing happens with video games. I know what I like, and each book I don't like or each book I love is something I build upon.
But I think that implies potentially that you are, or that the prerequisite to that response is that you are engaging with the text thoroughly. Even though you don't like it, you are still reading each page and giving it that same level of thought and concentration.
Yeah.
Whereas I think with many people, when they realize they don't like something, they begin to skim towards the end because they want to get out of the way.
There is this level of, I don't audiobook. I only read physically. My eyes are reading words, following the text. That is something also to consider with how I read books and approach them. If I were to audiobook them, audiobooking is easier. especially time-wise.
Yeah.
Management of time. You're listening, and you could also be doing other things. Whereas reading physically with a physical book or a Kindle, it takes time, or takes a level of concentration and
Yes.
a window of time that you are slotting out for that activity.
Yes.
That's also why I take my time with my reading, and why I choose the books that I
I
choose.
think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And to go back to the point that you were making about, like, oh, I'm all giddy and I'm excited. That happens sometimes for me.
Yeah.
And it usually happens when I'm reading a book, much like a Stephen King book, or not for lack of a better term, like a surface level book, but really nothing poetically or emotionally dense.
Mm-hmm.
Something I can just enjoy, and cool, that was fun. And then now that I'm kind of nearing the end, that question pops up in the back of my head. Ooh, what am I going to read next? Am I going to dive into another Stephen King book, or am I ready for Stoner by John Williams, Butcher's Crossing, that kind of thing?
For
And
me,
it's
it's more like
asking myself those questions.
For me, it's like a continuous fuzz at the back of my head. I find it quite hard to turn off, to be honest. The reason, forgive me, the reason I'm moving this camera back and forth is my son's just come home, in case he opens that door. But I'm good for another couple minutes. But if you saw me doing this,
Yeah,
that's why.
we could wind down here, because I'm probably going to go dive back into shooting again.
Nice.
But finish your thought, and we can kind of close things up.
Well, just wanted to apologize if I seemed a bit distracted there at the end. I'm just trying to make sure that my son tries to not get his face on the camera. But listen, what I'll say,
the whole thing, because I was in the middle of shooting, and I feel bad for my attitude and my mood. I feel like I haven't been as engaged today, but next time, I promise.
it's because you dislike me, isn't it?
No, goodness, no.
I'm teasing
also,
you.
I do have to pee, so I'm like, ugh.
You have, listen, I'm sure the comments will say something similar. I think you've been wonderful. It's
You've been
always
wonderful too, and I really appreciate you.
It's always a joy to interact with you. I think also partly because we have such different approaches to reading, and I really am, and I'm always in awe of your thoughts and your filmmaking and your copious notes on Lonesome Dove. And I don't think you've been in any way inadequate whatsoever. Quite the opposite. And it's just always a pleasure to hang out. And you know, there is as much as I enjoy living in Japan, there is that slight misery of the time difference. And I do want to make sure that I can make more time for something like this for you. Come on my channel in the next, let's say, what, three months? Is that feasible before the midpoint of the year?
I love it.
Even if it's a spurious time, we can make it work.
I love it. I love it.
Cool. Let's do that.
Well, everyone, I appreciate you hopping in the chat. I again apologize for neglecting you. I know there were so many great comments here that I didn't even register. Don't take it personally.
They interacted with each other.
Yeah, I hope so. No Name, thank you again for your undying passion for Malazan. Thank you all for the love that you share with books, your comments, your questions. It means so much. Go subscribe to Four Corners of the Page. He just hit 2K subscribers. He's going to be doing a Q&A soon. So that
I was going to film it tonight, but I'm not sure I can be bothered.
I understand.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you. And David, thank you as well.
I appreciate you.